All right, we're here. We made a YouTube channel. Instagram was fun and all, but I decided it would be good to do some long form content, switch to YouTube, or just do some more things on YouTube because it can be kind of hard to get some of my points across on Instagram. And my sob story with patellar tendinopathy, it needs a little bit more time. All right, so if you're here, thank you for being here. I appreciate it. All right, let's get into it. All right, so patellar tendinopathy. I'm actually scared to tell you guys how I even flared up my patellar tendon. Maybe you guys will click off, but I swear I know more than I let on. But one day, I was feeling antsy. I was feeling good. I decided, what better way to spend a nice 60, 70 degree, I think it was like a February or March or something. It was nice when it shouldn't even be nice. Go outside and go onto the concrete and do plyos until I didn't want to do plyos anymore and my legs were tired. So there was no structure to it. We were doing pogos, we were doing bounds, we were doing hops, we were doing hops to bounds, we were doing every single plane, we were doing deep tier, we were doing skips, we were doing gallops. I don't know what I was thinking, but I do remember thinking towards the end, I was like, this is so dumb, but sometimes you gotta fun. But I did indeed pay the price for it. So within the next couple of days, patellar tendon flared up severely, and it was really bothering me pretty bad. And I really had it towards the inferior pole of my patella. I know some people, they'll have it more down towards that tibial tube. My pain was really centralized towards that inferior pole. And I remember every time it would flare up, it would actually swell up right here at the inferior pole. And so while this is my first time recently dealing with patellar tendinopathy, really brought on by jumper's knee, I have had a slight pathological patellar tendon. I do think because I was just going back in my recent memory, and I remember we would do different things. And when I was a collegiate athlete, we would do these little mobility exercises. And there's this one where you're going into this kind of like lateral lunge type thing. And I remember I would always go towards my right, and I'd easily get my knee over my toe, no problem. But then whenever I would switch over to the left, I would always avoid translating my knee forward. I would instead always move back at the hips. So it would always be like this. I wouldn't want to bring my knee forward. And that's definitely where a lot of my issues arose from, and that definitely played a big role in my rehab. So we'll get into that later. And then another thing, I didn't have any delayed knee extension. Kind of funny, I realized afterwards, I'm doing all this research and stuff, and I realized that every time I would walk upstairs, I would never go forward. So here, this is what I'm kind of talking about. I would never want to translate my knee forward over my toes. Every time I would go up the stairs, I would always just come up and I would shoot my knee back because I don't want to load through my quads. So this definitely looks different going like this, rather than going up a stair, going a little forward, pushing through. Not that it matters, I need to change how I'm going up the stairs, but definitely kind of shows a little bit as to how I'm moving biomechanically. All right, so what did I know? I know that tendons need load, about 4 to 6% strain to get some sort of collagen remodeling and create some sort of adaptations in the tendon to make it stiffer and stronger. So I knew that. I knew that if we do long duration isometrics, we can get an analgesic effect, so we can get the nervous system to calm down, and we can also draw some fluid out of the tendon, which is always good. Knew those two things. And also knew that quad extension, or leg extension, whatever you want to call it, that's what a lot of people did. Just perfect way, just a loaded open chain, very progressible, very simple, very easy to do. So obviously that's where I started. And now, while many people did have a lot of great results with it, me personally, I actually didn't. I did not. And so we'll get into that in a second. So every time I would do the leg extension, it just kind of set off the alarms. You know, it was quite painful no matter what I did. Even if I did kind of lighter weight and did the 5 by 45 second isometrics, it didn't respond well. It didn't respond well. I would always, like during it, I would feel severely sharp pains in my patellar tendon, right at my inferior pole. And it would carry on throughout the rest of the day and into the next day a little bit. And so pain-wise, it wasn't responding well for me. But what I will say that it did do is that it did help reduce my inhibition. So over time, I was doing it for a couple weeks, and I was able to do more on my left leg, and I was able to get it almost to the point where it was as strong as my right leg. Initially, I was actually doing close to half the weight on my left leg as opposed to my right, just because I was so inhibited. My nervous system was so inhibited that I could not like push nearly as hard as I could, but over time I was able to. But obviously I did not get any sort of pain reduction with it. And so while I knew that a stronger and stiffer tendon would eventually mean it would become a healthier tendon, and I would probably get great results if I just stuck with the leg extension, I really just wanted something that could get my pain down. And this is when I learned that I think it is a bit of a individual kind of thing for people, where they may have one sort of isometric that they respond to significantly more than the other. So what it was for me personally was the step down. So I was just playing around with different things. I moved from, I was like, I'm not responding well to open chain leg extension. Let me try the single leg wall sit. Single leg wall sit was great, but what I would always realize is that I really just had a lot of pain once I translated the knee forward, going towards like my toes or even past that. Because it's something I avoided for so long, even like in college, in high school, just as an athlete, as a runner, I would always, my left knee would never want to go forward. So I was like, well, we're gonna mess around and find out. So boom, had a slant board lying around, and I just decided, we're gonna try these, Ben Patrick knees over toes, crazy, like going knees over the toes type thing. And initially, they were quite painful. I would get around here and it would just be super, super sharp pain. But I just decided, we're gonna stick with it. We'll do 5 by 45 seconds. And every time as I finished, one, my quads were smoked because they've been so inhibited and I just haven't trained them the right way. And two, like the pain immediately, severe reduction, and it would last for over into the next day. So I finally found a method in which I was actually getting that analgesic effect that we all want. Obviously, we shouldn't be just chasing getting rid of all the pain, but when we're dealing with something like patellar tendinopathy, if we want to be able to load it well and actually get it stronger, we better reduce the pain so we can reduce the inhibition. Just like I was talking about before with the leg extension, I was doing literally half the weight. Not because it was weak, literally because I could not send the signal to fire, to contract, because I was so inhibited from my nervous system. And so right now, what I'm not saying is that everyone should go and get themselves a slant board if you're dealing with patellar tendinopathy and just translate their knee over their toes as much as possible. What I am saying is that oftentimes people will have positions that they are avoiding, and maybe they were avoiding that far before the pain even started, because they had some sort of pathology before the pain really signaled that there is an issue. And so I think that when you're doing these isometrics and what you're trying to do is you're trying to get that analgesic effect, you're trying to reduce inhibition. I think it's worth it to try to do so in that range that you've been avoiding for so long, and you'll be amazed at how much better you'll start to feel in a short period of time once you actually reintroduce that position and you build strength in that position. That's helped me with so much beyond just getting the pain down, as far as like athletic performance and improving squats and jumps. So that was super helpful. Alrighty, now second thing that I did that I changed in my training to really help my patellar tendon and get myself feeling good again was heavy slow resistance. So these are all the things that I was already doing, but I had to change the way that I was doing it to get the proper effect. So obviously I was doing my squats and my Bulgarians and my hack squats and my front squats. I was doing all of it. I was just performing them, you know. I was probably just being a little bit jerky with the movement. I wasn't really thinking about tempo. I was just trying to, like, you know, lift heavy weight. And that was good to a point, but once I started becoming symptomatic, doing so and really just hammering on the weight and just being like, yeah, tendons need load, more weight, we're just gonna kill it, it just flared up even more. And things didn't really get better until I started using a metronome. I would listen to a 60 BPM metronome on Spotify, and I would go on the hack squat. So there's no way for me to hide. I have to use my quads, and I'm using squat shoes too, so I can even use my quads even more because I'm taking the dorsiflexion range out of it. And I'm going beep, beep, beep. I'm going 3 seconds down, 1 second hold at the bottom, and I'm spending 2 seconds to go up. So that's let me do the math. That's a 6 second rep, you know? And so that's about like 3 times longer than the reps that I'm typically doing. And so that was super crucial for me, just so I could really control the weight, get that time under tension, and we don't have a high strain rate of the tendon. Because when you do the jerky movements like the plyometrics, or you're doing like speed squats, that is really going to flare up a symptomatic tendon because it doesn't like those fast jerky movements. So I would do that. I would use a metronome. I would hop on the machine. I would put the squat shoes on, and it was extremely painful. It was amazing how difficult like a decent amount of less weight than what I used to do really was when your reps were like 6-7 seconds long. So but obviously directly after, again, I would have a strong analgesic effect, and it would feel good the next day. So that is another thing that I would say, is just use that freaking metronome. It's gonna be so painful, but it's gonna be so worth it because you do not want to be dealing with this stuff forever. Another thing that I started dosing in was just a small variety, a couple times a week, of just different types of squat patterns and movement patterns that expose my patellar tendon to a little bit of rotational and frontal plane load. So like I said before, you know, I really didn't want to get my knee over my toe. You know, I didn't have any sort of leg knee extension. I just wanted to go stay right here. And if I squatted, I didn't want to go forward at all. I wanted to hinge right back just so that my knee didn't have to travel forward. So I decided, you know, we're gonna just slightly dose in different positions. So the one thing that I did, like I said before, was just some lateral lunges, you know? So I would just, like simple lats, like literally I just started body weight. And right here, as soon as I would go forward, especially once I got towards my toe, it would flare up, it would just light up. But then after a few reps, like my nervous system was able to be like, okay, this is fine, we can do this. So I would dose that, and then I would do a little bit of rotational, like Cossack squats, which are super helpful because, you know, I come from a distance running background. We're constantly in the sagittal plane. We don't know what our tendons actually want until we do it. And it may hurt for a second, but the next day, everything's just moving so well. So I would do some Cossack squats, just like so. And after a couple times doing them, I was amazed at how good my tendon felt. I know this may not be the experience for everyone, but for someone like me who was an athlete that was so locked into the sagittal plane and had obvious movements that were like limited, and my nervous system did not want to allow me to go into them, it was super helpful for me to just start dosing them in. you know, because more than anything, beyond like a severe pathological degeneration type thing, my main issue was inhibition. So if we slowly reintroduce these ranges, then we're gonna be feeling pretty good. And now I feel pretty good, look at me, I feel great. All right, now you might be wondering, how did I progress back to running and sprinting and jumping? Well, the truth is, I never stopped. I just changed the intensity at which I was doing it. So obviously, flared it up, doing really everything there is to do on concrete. It's my bad, I'm sorry. But one thing that I did keep in consistently was things like pogo hops in different directions. Kept that in just because, one, knees mostly straight, and it didn't really seem to make symptoms too much worse. So I was able to I would keep in just a tiny volume of that just to get the minimum effective dose, just so we're not losing our springs too much. And sprinting, I did take out for the first couple of weeks, but then I just slowly started reintroducing it in once a week. I would do about like half of what I was doing. So let's say I would do like an acceleration kind of workout where I would do like 410s, 420s, 330s, and then like a couple flies, and then maybe like 1 or 2 by like 100 at the end, just feel good. I would literally just do half of that. I would just do like the 10s and the 20s, do some pogos and be done. Just get out of there just so I can get the minimum effective dose. And that's just what it was. And the truth is, did it flare me up? Yes, it flared me up. But I kept track of it. You know, if it only flared me up for 48 hours, then I was like, okay, we're good. Just because things got flared up for a little bit doesn't mean that all the progress that I made was gone, because what we're trying to do with patellar tendinopathy is we're trying to load things in a sequential manner so that we can get these structural adaptations that are going to last for, it's going to take like potentially like months to really get these adaptations. So it's not smart to take these things out completely for months and just never sprint again and never hop again. You just need to change the intensity at which you're doing it. So if you can go from doing these like super intense like bounds and hops and all these single leg things just to like, let's keep some plyos in, let's do a few sprints, let's see how we respond, and then we'll move on. That's typically a lot more beneficial towards your overall athletic development than taking it out, just so you can be pain-free. And so another thing that I did later on, once my pain was going down, things were starting to feel good, is that I started to do a little more deep tier work in which we were really working on that delayed knee extension. Just like I was talking about before, you know, I would like if I was going up the stairs, I would be like, I wouldn't want to load into my hip and then load through my quad. You know, it was just a scary range for me. So I decided, you know, we're gonna do some different type of lunge variations where we're forced to do that delayed knee extension. So this is one of the major ones that I just did right here that I started with. Hopefully I can do it right here. Is I would have a ball next to me just so, because it will kind of keep me down. I don't have a ball right now, but all you do is that you would go from here, where you're kind of like a reverse lunge, to forward. And now as you can see here, where my knee is, it's not really moving too much. What's moving more is my other leg, and I'm keeping it so the load stays through my knee as my hip comes forward. So now we're getting a little bit more dynamic movement. So I do some of those, and those seem to really help. And then eventually, as the deep knee flexion ranges weren't as scary, they didn't hurt as much, now we can work it more dynamically and now introduce it to a little bit of strain rate. So again, I would be in the split squat position, and then I would just do some oscillations. Do it like that, same thing. You can do it in a squat position. So those all kind of help me introduce some strain rate at length. So while everyone's rehabbing recovery will look a little different, and people will have different exercises they respond to better than others, so it's a bit individualized. One thing that everyone should have in their program with tendinopathy is a daily pain provocation test. This was super helpful for me. It's really what changed everything as far as being able to look at things in an objective manner. So what I would do every morning, I would wake up, get myself ready for my day. Before I would leave for school or go work out or whatever, I would do just a couple step downs on the slant board, and I would log my pain and any other symptoms that I had with it, you know? So this was super helpful because I feel like a lot of people, they'll wake up, like let's say they're doing rehab and like they are progressing a little bit, but it's like, oh, it still hurts, it's not getting better. Well, if you do that, if you have a pain provocation test and you're able to rate the pain on a scale from 0 to 10, maybe your pain went from let's say it's like a 3, but hey, 2 days ago, it was a 4. So you know that's something that you're doing is working. Again, it would also help with when I would still dose in my sprints and plyos, because I would note how it felt the next day, and I would make sure, is the pain going back to the pre-sprint and plyo levels within 48 hours? If it was, that's awesome. If it wasn't, I knew I had to dial back. And if the next day after sprints and plyos, it was still feeling pretty close to where it was before, I knew I'm really making some good progress. So I think that everyone should have that just as a objective marker, just so that your feelings don't get in the way of what's actually happening, and that you actually know what is going on and how you can adjust accordingly. All right, so you guys can call me crazy, you guys can call me a masochist for saying this, but honestly, dealing with patellar tendinopathy over the past couple months has been a blessing in disguise. Honestly, it's been great, and really for 2 reasons. First reason, obviously, I'm a physical therapy student, so there's no better way to know the physical and mental and emotional effects of injuries and different treatment protocols than actually going through it myself, you know? I really do think that my experiences are gonna help me a lot with the patients that I will see in the future. And I understand that maybe one protocol doesn't fit all, or maybe it'll be more effective for one person than others. Just like for me, I didn't respond super well to the quad extension. I was able to reduce inhibition, but pain was still kind of there. So that was super helpful for me. 2, I think it's actually helped me become stronger and a better athlete. You know, I'm a bit of a long-legged fella. And I'm pretty posterior chain dominant. I just want to hinge everything, you know. I don't want to really squat and really load into my quads. So this really made me learn and realize, dang, this is an issue. I need to be able to load through my quads, and I was able to find different methods. So, you know, like maybe back squatting all the time isn't the best option for me. Maybe it's like we can go to a hack squat, and they say machines aren't functional, but it sure was functional as hell for me. It was great. And you know, also adding squat shoes and different things, I was able to feel my quads like I've never been able to before, and I realized how much I was hiding before. And they literally grew in size in like literally 1 month, which is kind of crazy. And same thing, like different sorts of plyometrics, like bounds and broad jumps, and everything started to improve because this weak area that I was able to hide behind my strong posterior chain and my anatomical differences was now no longer able to hide, and I was able to bring it up, and everything started feeling great. So I am glad that this pain was given to me and brought on, and I was able to just learn a little bit more about how I move and what we can do to improve the quality of my movement and performance. So that was pretty awesome. All right, so just got a couple more things to say before we wrap up. First of all, if you're still watching, that's crazy. I appreciate you. This is only my first video. I promise you quality will get better. I'll get better at speaking in the future. We're just yapping, man. We're just taking long form to an extreme, you know. If you want the simplified version, I have all the simplified versions of these on my Instagram, but I'm just speaking my experiences. And going off of experiences, you know, this experience I've had with patellar tendinopathy is mine, you know. Just like I said before, yes, the quad extension didn't work for me. It actually works for most people, you know? So, but it is important for everyone. It's a job of yourself and your physical therapist to do a little bit of trial and error, because with things like tendinopathy, it is a bit of trial and error, and everything in your life goes into it in your recovery. So it's important for you to figure out what works for you instead of just copying what one person did. They can be great guidelines and they can take you 80% of the way there, but the final 20%, it is up to you to critically think and do the research and reach out to the right people to get where you need to be. Also, last thing I'll say is that pain does not always equal pathology. Yes, I did all the plyos that there are to ever do in the world on concrete, and I flared up my patellar tendon. But was my patellar tendon probably pathological beforehand? Yeah, probably. That's what I assume, because I had motions that only my left knee didn't want to go into. But there was no pain then, and there's pain now. And am I pathological now? Yeah. Is my pain decreased now? Yeah. Does that mean that I'm healed from patellar tendinopathy? Unfortunately, probably not. The pain's gone. That's great. I can do everything I want to do. But I got to keep my foot on the gas as far as loading my quads properly goes, because pain can decrease in a few weeks. A lot of it is just inhibition, the nervous system just shutting up. But these real tendinous adaptations, I mean, they can take months, potentially even years to get these like large adaptations that we all want. So I would say that like if you're dealing with patellar tendinopathy and like a few weeks later, you're like, yeah, I'm feeling good, and you're starting to dose things back in, it's like, no, don't forget about it. Like, do these movement patterns with a certain tempo, like continuing to build up your strength and your quadriceps. I mean, this is something that you should be doing for life, you know? So, so don't think that pain always has to line up with injury. And vice versa. Also, like, yes, I was doing the quad extension, and like I obviously like switched off of it because it was painful, but did my leg extension numbers go up in those couple weeks? Yeah, they definitely did. But I just personally wanted to find a different isometric for it to get an analgesic effect for myself, because I just didn't want to be in pain all the time. It kind of sucks. And then the meat and potatoes, quad strengthening, I would still do these heavy, slow, metronomed squats, and I would still keep quad extension just a little bit in, but I just knew it would not be my main pain reliever. All right, so you made it to the end of the video. Thank you, I appreciate it. I know I'm just kind of like yapping. This is just really just free form. Quality will get better soon, and I appreciate it. And if you are someone that is dealing with patellar tendinopathy, hopefully a couple of points you can take home with you, potentially like implement or just think about or bring up if you are seeing a PT or chiro or whatever. That could be a good idea, because all these things that I mentioned are things that I had to think about critically and implement into my own rehab, because I did it all on my own, and I was able to see great success eventually. So, I mean, these things are just trial and error, just like this YouTube channel is. If I get 10 views, I'll be pumped, but thank you very much. I'll see you guys on the next one.